Hello, class. This session was a long time in coming. I apologize for that. To complicate the matters, it's even further delayed because last night I actually announced that the tentative Wednesday night session was canceled. That didn't go through. I then said that I would announce Thursday when I would be holding it in the evening. Apparently that didn't go through to some of you. And then I did log online last night at 9 o'clock to record that session. And one student showed up. Thon, we had a good session. Problem was I didn't hit the record button. So I am redoing this again. And as I had previously announced, for twofold purpose. One is I am going to I'm going to do some critiquing of the exercise one, which was due on Wednesday. And I've given you extension on submitting that. Once we get past assignment 2, which is due a week from Saturday, that's the second purpose of this session, is to go through assignment 2 so you have a thorough understanding. Once we get past that, I think we can settle down and be hitting all the deadlines and moving forward. Right now, I want to make sure that you've given a fair shake on everything. I appreciate your patience with me as I've been traveling all over the place. Now, normally, these are the kind of questions that we would spend time on in these live sessions going over. Assignment 1, I want to make a comment on. I'm confused as how the grading is going. The two parts, the first part didn't work out with people because of technical problems in submitting it, so I created another first part for you to tell me, what you're going to be doing, the planning phase, the preparation, getting some feedback on that. And then, of course, you'll be submitting the actual finished piece, which is the second part. What I'm doing is taking all those pieces and all the work that you submitted, and I'll be grading it. That's what your 40 points is worth. Once you get that feedback from me, you can, if you want to, resubmit that. Now, exercise 1 been extended where you can submit it up through Saturday so I can grade it. I've given feedback on those that have already submitted. I'm going to go through and critique those who have submitted so far. And then, of course, I'm going to introduce you to exercise 2. Now, notice here on the calendar that exercise 1 was due then, and you were supposed to submit your proposal, your concept, your idea, your message, what you wanted to communicate for assignment 2, and how you're going to do that. More of that during the session. If you haven't done that, please do that first. It's so important to get feedback. Remember, we talked about the communications process as demonstrated by the model that I extensively went over with you, that feedback is a very critical phase of communicating. You don't know if you've communicated if you haven't gotten feedback on from your audience and whether it was understood or not. I'm giving you a chance to do that and get feedback from me so that you can improve your concept before you actually put together a lot of work. That's the design process. You're getting feedback all the time. You just don't submit the final product to the client and say, hey, what do you think? Anyway, so at the end of this week, you have quiz 1 is due. Of course, your discussion is due then. You had one discussion due last night. And of course, you're starting to work on your assignment 2, which as you can see right here is due at the end of next week. So the very first of the next month, the second half of the semester, you're submitting this big project, and I want to make sure I understand it. So that's why we're going over this extensively tonight. Before I do, I want to make sure that you understand these 6 concepts thoroughly explained to you in the information, but make sure you go through and understand these concepts. And of course, I did discuss these 5 ways that you could be creative with type. Now, you've tried practicing that with exercise 1. Please, as I go through the critiques here of exercise 1, please note I will be commenting on the different types of creativity you're having here. But more importantly, did you meet the requirements, the specifications that I gave you? And two, did you actually communicate effectively more so than what the type itself said by what you did to it, by formatting the type or treating it or applying something to it, or, it's giving some additional meaning. It might even be by, having a graphic substituted for a letter form or something of that nature. And this is what we're talking about this week. Assignment 1 was about bringing together graphics and text, art and copy into a layout form that was set, double page spread, National Geographic magazine layout. Set format, a given audience, very successful way of communicating. You were to mimic that and bring these pieces together. The second activity, exercise 1, was about just concentrating on verbal information that is being conveyed. Type, it's about type and putting together a message with type. But in this case, you're going to enhance it a little bit with color, formatting, somehow creatively dealing with that type so that it conveys more meaning than just what the words themselves mean. Now we're going into another phase where we're only looking at the visual information and how it's conveyed. You convey it with color, with graphics, art, illustration, and the most popular method of conveying information visually is through photography. And the material that I've presented to you, I've put together into a slide presentation. I will either post that in the module for you to look at, and or I will be presenting it with online as another presentation that I'll post later this week, by this weekend. In assignment 2, I keep hitting my button and advancing my slides before I want them. This next assignment, a biggie, a very hard one. You cannot use words. You can use type, letter forms, numerals, symbols, okay? You can't use words. And it's very important that you pick the right visual, so a visual that has only one meaning for what you want to say, or else you put it into a context. You apply meaning to that visual by arranging it with other visuals and putting some context into it. I'm going to show you lots of examples here so that you can get this right. For example, if you saw these symbols in and of by themselves on a t-shirt, and this was a t-shirt artwork, it looks to me like there's baking being dropped into somebody's hands. Now, an idiot would go, it means you push the button, you get your hands dry. That's because this graphic here is on a hand dryer. And it's the context of the machine it's on that gives you meaning. But if it was just by itself like this, clearly push button, that's a good sign right there. It's a hand with a finger up, a little circle. Easy to understand, push a button. However, those wavy lines look like bacon. It could look like waves, water streaming out, air blowing, okay? The hands look like they could be catching something, washing each other. You don't know, but by context, you know that. So be careful when you're presenting your information that you give context to the visuals you're presenting. This one's easy to understand, right? Okay, all you millennials, you have never used a telephone probably that looks like this, especially one that's got a wire on it. Okay, well, if you have or haven't, you still understand that that's a phone and that line represents a phone call coming through, and you've got 2 animals here, and if the audience understands that, hey, when have I seen these 2 together? Those are representations of political parties. And of course, scissors is for cutting. So you put all this thing together, and what does this say basically, right? Robocalls, they call you from a robot machine, right? Who are you voting for? Take a survey, whatever. You want to cut them off, right? You can clearly see that this is about cutting off this particular graphic. Accompany a story about this. But by itself, you can clearly see the idea that's being communicated because of the arrangement of the signs and the appropriate signs that the audience can understand. Here are 3 ways of taking this phrase, love is a hole in the heart. As I spoke it, it's just, can you just see it? It's just plain type, all the same typeface, same type size, same color, same font, everything, right? Love is a hole in the heart. However, when it's typeset like this, and this is very similar to, and this is exactly what you would have done for exercise 1. You've basically added color, type, formatting, maybe an image or something to provide more visual interest as well as more visual meaning to what's being said. And you know, you can almost hear, I love, it's a hole in the heart. It has more meaning that way, okay? And that's what I wanted to show you to do. I wanted you to show me. Now here's another example. You can clearly see the word love. Now that's a word. Now this next assignment too, you can't use a word. Here there's no verbal information given as a full sentence like before, but it says here's the word love, and the love you can see through it's like a hole in the heart. So here's a good visual representation of that previous sentence that's spoken. Oh, love is a hole in the heart. So it's a really nice sign that's been created here, but it doesn't quite carry the message by itself. And of course, you couldn't do something like this for the next assignment because there's the word love, and you can't use a word. Down here, you might say, well, okay, I'm not using the word love. I've got an L as a letter form, and E as a letter form. I've got a heart, and I've got a hole there. Okay. Some people can construct it and go, no, I see the word love. And it's kind of cheating, even though I literally have not used any words in here. I've just used signs and letter forms, which are legitimate. Okay, so it's kind of a compromise between the two. But this would be a little bit better way. It would meet the requirement of this next assignment better, because you're looking at this and say, what the heck does this graphic mean? It's an interesting graphic. I like it. It might be something that would illustrate whatever you're trying to say, but can I get meaning from it by myself? Okay, I see the word love, and heart says love, and there's this hole in this heart, and I'm seeing through it. There's a hole in this heart called love. It's not quite coming out the same way, but you get the idea. Okay, so before I get on to assignment 2, let me critique those pieces that have already been submitted to me, okay? Now, 1, I'm not going to give a full critique on each one of these. It would be all day. Please learn from each critique. This may not be yours, but from what I'm going to say about this one, take a look at your own and say, gee, did I do that? Can I correct that? Can I improve it accordingly? Number 1, I said in this assignment to lead your type tightly, okay? Now this line here that I've drawn is what the first line of type is sitting on. That's called the baseline, okay? And there's the second baseline. The space between these two baselines is called leading. So when someone says lead it, apply leading or line spacing that is tighter, that means the space between there, the distance between those two lines, those imaginary lines, the baselines, a leading would be less. So it's tighter leading. Tightly lead all of your headings. Now I said it was supposed to be multiple lines. There are 2 lines there. I said you can resubstitute letter forms for graphics, and that was done here. You add some color. The type is not being upstaged by any of the graphics or additions. It's being enhanced by it. However, when I go down to the skull, and I'm looking at the skull, and I got IE follows it. The good ones die. Okay, I have to kind of figure that out, don't I? I have to decode the message here. It's encoded a little bit. By choosing the skull, it looks more interesting to look at, but it makes it less legible, harder to, and less readable, harder to understand. You have to decode it. Now the question is, was it worth creating that extra visual interest at the expense of taking away from the ease of getting the information? In this case, you might, it's kind of borderline. I could say, okay, it doesn't require a lot of pain to figure that out, and it adds to the message. Next one. A lot is going on here. Too much is going on here. Contrast is good. It creates interest. However, take a look at how many different things we've got going here. Okay, we've got. Let me get back here to. Let me get to the right color here. Okay, here we have love, and of here are treated similarly, aren't they? They got a little graphic that's in there somehow. Okay. However, love is not as closely related to as of and of, rhymes with it, right? But actually, love is more closely related to sex because you're comparing the two. Love on one hand, sex on the other. Chemistry on one hand, physics on the other. There's a parallel between there, and yet typographically, there wasn't really made much of an association between those two. If those had both been made the same typeface or the same color, like red, okay? Red means love, red means passion, okay? So you're seeing there's some similarity, right? But they're different because love is chemistry and sex is physics. Also, use spacing here. You've got the same spacing between each line, which is a little too fluffy. You could tighten that up a little bit more to create a more interesting shape that all the words together form. But you could do it like this, okay? Love is a matter of, and then chemistry. And then sex is a matter of physics. And you can see the alignment over here associates the first two lines closer together, and the alignment here associates the other one. So arranging the type, formatting the type, that's what we talked about in type creativity, helps and adds to that. Now the chemistry works really good, the typeface here. Physics, I'm not so sure about, okay? Now there's more I can talk about, but I need to move on. This is not a heading. This is more like an ad, a poster, whatever, okay? The graphic far outweighs the weight of the words. It's upstaging the words. I want you to enhance the heading, not to overwhelm the heading. In fact, if I read this, second place is just the first place, loser. Maybe the word is, second place is just the first place for losers. Okay, that's kind of funny and interesting, but it violated one, the use of the graphics is wrong, okay? You don't need this graphic here. That's more distracting than anything. I don't need this. Why don't we? No, it's a heading. Do I really need her? No. What do I need? There. That would work. You know, imagine what you've got here is you've got this hand, right, in the form of an L, right? And then you type loser. And maybe you might want to type losers. First is the first place of losers. I don't need all that other graphics upstaging it. Enhance just that. Plus, another thing it breaks is it really, I guess you could say it's got more than one line. There's one line and there's two lines. And so, okay, it's supposed to be multi-line because I want to see you creating a relationship between the two lines, playing with that leading, of course. Now here we have two different ones. The one above it is very busy. The one below it is not as busy. It's more interesting. I don't get the one below it. As above, so below. Sorry, I don't understand the message. I'm a member of the audience who doesn't get what you're trying to say, so your illustrations better say something that really enhances what you're trying to say. It doesn't do that. It loses it on me, so it doesn't work. If whatever you do as a designer, your target audience does not get the message, it's a fail. Okay? Now up here, I get the message, but it doesn't attract my attention too much because it's too busy. There's too much going on. There's too much color. There's too much variation. I do like the fact that you got hits and distributed action verbs are in the same type and the same color. So I can associate those together. Hitting something, distribute something. See, that makes it easy to understand. Evenly, the type being jostled up and down, that's great. But why does the type change colors? Okay, again, you're adding more to it visually, but it's not enhancing the verbal information. It's distracting. It's breaking with the logic. Simplify, simplify, simplify. I don't need this green in here either. Okay, just make it black. Will not. Basically, you're saying hits, not distributed. Okay, those are main words. Fan, evenly. And technically, you know, when it hits a fan, it more like goes off like this, doesn't it? Right? If you had the letters something like this, where you could put them in a way that somebody could decode it very easily, and see what you're saying here, and they can go out here and put it together, and visually it says more how it distributes, how it's uneven, and I can still see unevenly. So the word unevenly is behaving, not distributed that way. Okay? Now, visually, this is pretty good, but it's not very exciting because there's no contrast. Melts is melting. That's very logical. Ice cream is melting. Again, it's all the same thing. Why not have a contrast? Why not have ice cream not melting? Hey, ice cream, great. And what's the flip side? Oh, it melts. You know, an ice cream cone. Oh, how delicious that looks. And the next picture is it's all over their hand. You're trying to convey that contrast, that interest in visual dealing with the type here. Now, there's a variation that was done, and now we've got the type going jumbled. Melting doesn't jumble, and I don't know that ice cream looks. Why is the counter white in all these lowercase letters? So it's interesting. You're adding visual stuff, but it doesn't enhance what's actually being said here. Okay. This is a total failure. This needs to be redone. It did not meet any criteria at all for this assignment. It's not a heading where you can have a graphic enhance the heading. What it is, it's a graphic. And by the way, you have some words enhancing the graphic. Okay, it's more like a poster. Secondly, it's only a single line of type. And thirdly, there's really not anything to speak of that's really been done to the type. Okay, you made a choice of what? Typeface, color. Basically, that's it. And a little bit of warping trying to go around the edge. That's it. The sweet smell of happiness. That's how it reads. How many ways can you say that? The sweet smell of happiness. The sweet smell of happiness. Sweet smell of happiness. Or how about the sweet smell of happiness? You can say it lots of ways. Let the type speak that way. That's what I want you to do, is to treat the type so it's creatively saying what the words themselves say. It's showing what the words say. Again, another poster, same thing, no real treatment of the type. And why not pick a typeface that looks like bubbles? Get rid of all those bubbles, okay? Just have a couple bubbles, okay? What's happening is the graphic background is not only making it harder to read the type, taking away from it, but it's upstaging it, okay? The main actor on the stage is being upstaged by the stagehand on the side, cracking jokes or yelling at something or whatever, talking on his phone. It's distracting, it's noise. No, this whole thing is way too complicated. I'm not going to want to deal with this. There's too much to figure out. It's not worth it. The concept is good. Arm yourself with knowledge, because life's problems is your enemy. Get kind of the idea is that you want to, who's your enemy and what do you do to protect yourself from enemy? Somehow you need to draw an association here with arm and enemy. Because aren't you trying to say that? You're arming yourself with what? What's the weapon? Knowledge. And who's your enemy? Life's problems. You need to structure the typography somehow so that those are pulled together. This is way too much over here. Information visually. And this is way too much information. You don't need to illustrate all of life's problems. Treat the words life's problems. Pick a typeface that looks like it's having a problem. Okay? Okay. If the audience can clap at the wrong time, they will. Now, it's kind of interesting because the clapping is right here dividing up. If the audience can clap at the wrong time, they will. It's breaking up the thoughts, which is what it's illustrating here. Clapping. You know, if the audience can clap at the wrong time, that's not as bad. They will, right? If the audience can clap at the wrong time, they will. Hey, you clap at the end, right? By putting it and breaking it up, it kind of says that too. But I think the clapping here is a little, the graphics a little bit too much. You don't need a really big hand clapping to get the point. Okay, but the leading is nice. Notice how very tightly leaded. Notice how it's lined up over here. Notice how the P comes here and connects into this graphic. It's an interesting shape. The whole heading is an interesting shape based on the leading and how they aligned it. This is asymmetric alignment. It's not perfectly centered. It's not perfectly left. It's not perfectly right. It's asymmetric. Okay, so you get the ideas here of how you might be able to improve on those before you submit them, or now that you've submitted them, after you submit them. Now, I want to go through assignment 2. Big assignment. We're trying to pull together a lot what we've talked about in this class about communication, understanding the audience, the meaning of images, signs, codes, emblems, all kinds of, we talked about semiotics. And so we're trying to bring this together where you are thoughtfully going to come up with something you want to communicate. Hint, try not to make it complicated, so esoterical. Most students, they want to get involved with communicating some really lofty idea about saving the planet if we do this and that. Make it simple on yourselves, okay? Because it's a hard assignment, picking the right things to say what you want to. Now notice the heading here for this slide set. An example I wanted to give you, I created to show you this is just like what I was asking you to do in exercise 1, right? Look at the interesting shape that's created here, okay? It's all pulled together really nice. It's nicely composed, right? And nice contrast. Signs, using a sign. Color, using color. Mixed media, showing different colors of letter, like it's mixed, okay? And of course, to add some really interest, the ampersand is huge. To add to that interesting shape, I've made it diminish by graying it so it doesn't prompt a, signs, color, mixed media. Using to convey meaning. Not as important, smaller, the head, the tail, ties it all together, okay? But that's not what this one's about, because you can't use words. Mixed media is more than one medium, and one medium is like a single material, a single technique, okay? A computer output, you want to probably do this all in the computer. That's one output. That's one medium. If you submit this as one flat piece of thing, all constructed on the computer, that's one medium. You're doing this by hand. You're going to build it like this, scrapbooking. It's mixed media. You're going to create it by hand. You're going to take a picture, you're going to take several pictures of your final work and submit that for grading. So you can see here that you got three-dimensional things, you got a lot of different colors and textures and objects, okay? There is a piece of mixed media hanging on the wall in an art directory, very interesting to look at. It's a piece of art, but this is not about creating a nice piece of artwork or nice composition. It's about using art and a composition that you create to communicate a specific thought or idea. Okay, that's the tough part. Here's a great graphic, and you might say, well, what is it saying? It might illustrate something about the 60s, about fashion coming back. Maybe it's about flirting or dating, or I don't know. It's a kind of very suggestive here, isn't it? Lifting up the skirt. It would be great to illustrate something, but I don't know what it's saying because I don't know what we're talking about. in your composition, you've got to make it very clear to your audience what you're talking about, and then present the signs in a way that they can figure out clearly what you're talking about and what the message is, okay? I'm skipping over these slides. Here's the first example, one that barely meets the criteria of mixed media. There's only 2 media used here, okay? Black and white photographs, they're all cut out, silhouetted, and I think it was pencils, colored pencils. Maybe there's a third one, they use an ink to get the black areas of the graphics. Let's take a look at this and what's it saying here, okay? How do I know what we're talking about? What's the topic here? Is the topic emotions? Is the topic color? Is the topic people? So we try to look at patterns and duplications. And, you know, we talked about Gestalt theory, that people look at things and they try to make sense of it, form patterns. You create a pattern, you create a structure, an organized presentation. That's what design is about. That's what you do as a designer. You organize these elements in a way that people naturally can look at them and figure out what's going on. So first they're looking at all the different images of people and notice that they're all different emotions. And they look at little icons here, emoticons, oh, there's a heart over here. And they're realizing, okay, they're all the same, and oh, they all represent like different types of emotions, right? Emoticons are emotional icons, okay? And then they're looking at different colors, and they're looking how they're grouped. Okay, so these 2 are grouped together. Now notice this little face here, it's an angry face. Notice we've got the V-shaped eyebrows. Could have been made a little bit bigger and closer to him, to relate to him. Here, the heart's right next to them. Okay, heart, they're in love, romance. Okay, I get it. Red. Oh, he's angry. Angry red. Oh, okay, I think I get what's going on here. Come down here. Oh, they're all looking pretty happy. Happy, 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 happy. Yellow. Yellow's happy. Okay, I'm getting this now. Okay, over here. What is this here? I don't know what she's... Oh, I don't know what she's doing. These guys are sick. Maybe it's not as clear what's going on. Green. If people get green when they're sick, or oh, this guy's envious or greedy or something. What's he got? A bunch of dollar bills in his hands. Okay. Up here we got someone. Okay, she looks kind of stressed. This one where she's sad ought to be closer to her. And this one here where she's peace is closer. So it's important you get the right emoticons that people understand, oh, that's the emoticon for peace. And that's one for, okay. So it clearly looks like there's some sort of relationship between colors and emotions. Yeah, you got the idea. Because I know what the topic is about. I see how we can develop the concept, and I get the idea. Now here's a really good one, okay? 3 black and white pictures of leaves. The top one has the leaves painted green. The bottom one has the leaves painted orange. The middle one's not painted. So this is about leaves. Maybe it's about seasons. What is this about? I'm not sure what it's about, and if I don't know what it's about, how do I know what it means? All we have to do is just add some additional visual information here to direct my attention. Flower, question mark, an onion. No, pumpkin. Pumpkin. Pumpkins are yeah, orange. Okay, pumpkins are orange, and the leaves on a flower here. Oh, but that's kind of like spring. Oh, this is springtime and this is fall. Okay, we're talking seasons here, but I don't know what season that is. Why don't I know what season it is? Because it's not colored. I need the color to know what season it is, don't I? Color has additional meaning. Ah, I got it. See, color conveys meaning. Color provides additional information important to understanding the message. It doesn't matter how I say what I understand. It's the same concept. You don't have to get your audience to say words to convey a message, okay? This one here. Do we really need the one on the left? Nah, we could have cropped them out, says the same thing. If I use the one on the left, then I'm thinking it only deals with going to the bathroom. You only have to wash your hands when you go to the bathroom or you'll get sick. No, it's not about going to the bathroom. That's just one instance of having dirty hands. Doesn't matter how my hands got dirty. I'm washing my hands, and washing your hands is associated with happy kids. Not washing your hands is associated with sick kids. Figure it out. It's kind of cliche, but it's done in a very interesting way. In fact, do I even need the equal signs? Probably not. Just by grouping these two together and saying these relate, and grouping these together that they relate, and having the hands and washings the same. And the only thing different about this is the no, and there's the result. This is a scientific method. This is a great way of communicating just visually. The scientific method says take one variable, only one variable, and keep everything constant. Okay? What's the variable here? Don't wash. Wash, don't wash. That's the variable. And what's the result? Sick, not sick. Therefore, conclusion is, if you don't wash, you get sick, because not washing your hand creates sickness. I got the message. See? That's the scientific method. So here's the approach of this activity. By now you should have selected your message, and then you run it by me by posting it there in the forum, telling me, writing a paragraph, how you're going to approach this. What signs are you going to use? What meaning does each sign have? How are you going to construct so that you're going to convey the meaning you're going to convey? Okay? Create this thing first in your mind and express it to me before you physically create it. Now, you may not, you're prohibited. You cannot do the following things in your assignment, okay? Or you're not accomplishing this work. So don't do any of these. Do not create a rebus, okay? And rebus is to get you to say the exact words by using letters and images, okay? You can see here that Y plus or is your, 3 I's is eyes, donut without the U is don't, and L with an I is lie. Put them all together and you get your eyes don't lie. You're not trying to get me to say that. That's like Morse code. That's not what this is about. This is about creating a visual that tells a story, that conveys an idea, that people get what you're saying without it being a rebus. Okay? This is one student's attempt to make a rebus. I think, okay, this has got to be about fast foods. Or maybe this is how Jack in the Box became so famous. Or I don't know. A bunch of work symbols. See, it's supposed to mean this is all work. It doesn't say all work to me. This says no play, don't play, equals or makes Jack a dull boy. I don't know why he's dull. He's smiling just because it's black and white. So there's some great ideas here, and there's a lot of meaning in the mind of the designer. But the designer is not taking into consideration how the audience will view this and understand it and basically not get it without knowing what you're trying to say. Another thing you cannot do in this assignment is put together a visual cliche. There's lots of types of artwork. These are a couple that I downloaded that clearly say raining cats and dogs. It's raining so hard, it's raining cats and dogs. I don't even know where that expression came from. Most people know what it means. If they don't know what it means, then you haven't communicated much of anything. And if they do, it's because it's a cheap way for you to express something because you don't know how to express it yourself. What's another way of saying it's raining cats and dogs? Come up with that. Now try to say that message. Okay? Man, it is just pouring. It's raining so hard like I've never seen it before. Okay? Here's some great cliches. You can read them yourself later if you want to. I just wanted to share some of these here with you. This is my favorite one. His suit had been declined. That's funny, isn't it? She swept past him. And tossing her head in the air, she turned a little pale and kicked it over. Okay? These are fun, and you might be, they're punny. They're funny. Okay? But they're cliche. What does that say? Well, you're flushing money down the toilet. Yeah, you said the whole thought, right? Because it's a cliche. You don't know how to say it yourself, so you say what everyone has said 100 times before to communicate. It's why we use words, and some words become cliche. Oh my God, can you use another word besides cool? Okay, it becomes so cliche because there's no other way that people can say things. This is the problem I have with today's youth. They use the F word on everything. It's a noun, it's a verb, it's an adjective. Why? Because they don't have the vocabulary to express themselves. It's vulgar. It really offends educated people. Unsophisticated. That's what puns are. They have their place. Cliches have their place. Puns have their place too. But do not create a visual pun to get me to say what you think I should say. It's a thought and an idea you want to convey, not words that have to be constructed in my mind to understand what you're talking about. Okay? So obviously this is what? An eggplant. Can you figure out what these three are? I can't wait for you to figure them out. You probably won't, so I'm going to cheat. I'm going to just show you what they mean, right? 2 feet of snow. That's great, isn't it? Our base is under attack. That's either a really, really big tack or a little tiny base. It's funny. It's interesting. It's a puzzle. I show you that, and you go, oh no, what is it? It's our base is under attack. Oh, that's hilarious. That's clever. That's fun. Don't do that in this assignment. That's not what this is about. I saw this image on a billboard in Las Vegas. Caught my attention, of course, right? I immediately thought of the Addams Family. You know that one character, the Thing? He's nothing but a hand. He crawls all over the place. Poor Thing had a problem in the restroom. You know, it got my attention. But this is what the message was on the billboard. It was about trying to get someone to sign up to become, you know, to learn how to be a trade. You know, plumber, electrician, carpenter, something like that. A hand does not stretched out does not represent career. Now, these two go together. The visual caught your attention and the words conveyed the message, but that's not what this assignment's about. You don't have words to convey the message. You don't have words to tell you what is it about. There's no heading, there's no caption. I have to know what it's about immediately. So this isn't working. Okay, so basically you should have done the first 3 parts of this to date. Get the feedback, you still can. Then find your appropriate images and then assemble them together. I'm going to show you how to assemble these things together. In fact, before I get to that one, let me see if I can show you. Oh, shoot. I just threw it away. Instead of loading it up, I deleted it. Let me see if I can find it again here real quick. Okay, is this it, maybe? Okay, I do have this one. Let me load it real quick. Unfortunately, the type might blow out because it's not a PDF file which embeds the type in the document, and therefore all my type will stay the same. This is a PowerPoint format, and basically it is going to change if I don't have the fonts loaded in my system. They'll default and change. I don't think it'll be critical here. Okay, so let's just take a look at this particular assignment. Here's an example. The student wanted to say the U.S. government owns the auto industry. Now this, I got to give you some background for those of you who didn't live through the 2008 crash of everything, where all 3 of the auto industries were clamoring they're going to go under, they need to be saved, okay? And so this is the information about that. When in fact there were cartoons about this, explaining how all the 3 companies are sucking off, getting their power from the government. In fact, the government in some cases, well, they lent them the money, but they owned most of the stock. And they owned them for that reason because they wanted to have control to make sure that they got back the money. And it worked out just fine. And here's a great one. GM stands for government made. So that was the issue here. And this student wanted to complain about that and express himself editorially. And in 2 minutes, he came up with this. There it is. The U.S. owns the auto industry. Does it say that? No. Does it comply with this assignment? No. Not in any way, shape, or form. Let me explain why it doesn't. He used the wrong signs, for one thing. Okay? That represents the United States of America, does not represent the federal government. There's a big difference. This represents 50 states united together into one country. Now, the government that runs the federal aspect of running the country, federal government, is made up of executive, legislative, and judicial branches. That flag does not represent those, so it's the wrong one, okay? Secondly, that represents the Ford Motor Company, not the auto industry, okay? In fact, Ford didn't even receive funds from Congress. They weren't even participating in it, so it's not even part of the message. So it's so screwed up in so many ways, simply because he jumped to the conclusion, trying to go, boom, I got it done. And also, it wasn't mixed media, it was all one type. And he used the word own. You can't use own, no words. So what are the kind of, how are these concepts visually going to be represented, okay? I gathered together some of these here. Uncle Sam, that's a symbol that came up during World War II to represent the federal government wants you to, fight the war. Uncle Sam wants you. Now it represents the IRS and the feds and all that perfectly. Someone created this symbol. Everyone understands. And you could use it, okay? You can also use anything that, here we go. Here's what the legislation branch is. It is the federal government in a sense. They make the laws. This here represents the auto industry, all of them together. At least those that participated. These two represent Chrysler. This represents General Motors. And these things here represents ownership, okay? And so by simply putting them together, what do you got? Uncle Sam has got a deed here. Now I know you can't use words. If I remove the words deeds here and didn't have Uncle Sam's signature, but had a picture of him here, signing it, representing his signature, and put something around it so you know it looks like a deed. He has over half, again, these aren't words, and if he's got his name on it, he's holding it, hey, I own these two companies. Federal government owns those. See how you convey that idea correctly? Now, keys, some people use keys. Keys don't represent ownership. Keys only represent control of. I give my daughter the keys to drive the car, she doesn't own the car. A receipt does not indicate ownership. I can buy that car for my daughter as a gift. I give it to her. It's now in her name. She owns it. It's hers, not mine. I bought it. I got the receipt, but I don't own it. So you got to be careful. A deed, if your name's on the deed, that says you own that, right? In fact, what could you else have done? I didn't have one here. The little deed on the Monopoly game, that's a good one too. You could make a little, like a Monopoly card, where you own the deed for some particular property. And there's lots of ways you could represent that. So anyway, now let me give you some good examples here of what other students have done. Where's that? I thought yeah. These are from spring, and I kind of brought some, curtailed some of them. Now, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating this composition by hand with various materials, and you're going to put it together, and you're going to take a picture of it to show me overall what it looks like. Now, sometimes some students can't show the whole thing in one picture, and you might have to take several pictures to show me what it is. But in addition to that, I want you to create 3 separate images where you are composing it in your camera from an angle, from a distance, cropping it. So you actually end up coming up with additional images you could use from this one composition. Here's the overall composition. Okay? And this is what was trying to be communicated. You're going to include your message. In love, the end of one relationship is an opportunity for another. Now, you read that heading, and then you look at the graphic, you're like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, it does say that. But if you don't have the words there, and you look at that, does it say the same thing? Okay, let's take a look at some additional images you can get from this one image. Just by zeroing in and cropping like that, it may not say that entire thing, but this could be an illustration that could be used on the topic of what it's supposed to say. This could mean, what, a first date? You put on a, look, she's got the inside the door, her heart's there, she's ready, he's got flowers ready, okay? But I don't know what it says, but it's a great image. I need to see the whole composition to see what it says, but then I need you to create 3 other compositions. See how many different images I can get from this one? This guy's leaving. They're both turning away. The door's closed. The heart's broken. The flowers are dead. The end of a relationship. It clearly communicates that. That alone says it is sad when relationships end, or when hearts are broken, relationships are end, or it could say lots of different things, but I clearly get the idea of what's going on here. I know what we're talking about. Love, relationships, endings, sadness, put it all together, makes sense. Here's another way of looking at it. Here's a door in the back that's got a broken heart. The door's closed, but another door is opening up right here, and he's coming in, and it's fresh flowers. Oh, that says something, doesn't it? That's what I want you to think through. Okay, here's one that was created. What does that say? Lots of signs going on here, right? Different heights to the podium. You got a trophy, got a big mouth opening up. You got 3 products. You look really close to that, and it says Cheetos tastes best. Okay, it works together. When you have a headline, a heading, a statement, and it's very powerfully connected to a visual, and the visual says the same thing, wow, there's power in that. Just looking at it and trying to get what it says, there's power in that, particularly when you get the message. But now when you put a heading with it, really powerful. Another way of looking at it. Now this angle doesn't work, does it? Because now it looks like Doritos is being tasted in the best. No, it's just being tasted. They're all being tasted, but that was the winner. That one's a little bit better because not only is it a different angle, but it still shows that he's tasting the Cheetos and he's the winner, and that's the best one. So I want you to show me an overall picture like this one. This is what it looks like. Can I figure out what this means? Just by looking at this. What does it mean? Perspective affects how you see things. That's the message. Do you get that from figuring that out here? Can you show it from different angles? From that angle, there's an even closer, tight shot of that. There's the other angle. There's all different ways I can shoot this composition to come up with other interesting, informative images. Wow, lots of them. And I want you to come up with 3 images that are different from each other from your original composition. Now, if your original composition is one flat piece, it's going to be very difficult to come up with other images. But here's an overall one. Someone put together something quite elaborate here. Standing on a bunch of books, looking over a wall, seeing a city. Not enough books standing on, can't see over the wall. Got to have a lot of books to look over the wall to see the city. That's what it says to me. Reading helps. Reading a lot helps you see the world. Now, it's almost like a rebus, or it's almost like, it's almost like they're trying to get you to say the words, but not quite, because standing on the books, I don't know that means she's read those books. That sign is not indicated. She's got a book in her hand, So you might be able to put that together. Here's another way of looking at it. Another image created from this composition. Lots of different ones I can create. So you put all this work into a three-dimensional piece, there's a lot you can get out of it as far as imagery. And if you're doing a magazine article and you need 5 or 6 different pictures on this magazine article, one piece of artwork, one composition put together very well could provide all of the necessary images to illustrate that particular brochure, story, whatever it is. Here's an interactive one, okay? It was in a book form. You flip it open, and then you see 3 of the same things looking at black and white images here, okay? Then you flip the page, and when you flip the page, it's a translucent page, okay? And what it does is it reveals a colored portion of the black and white. See, previously, there was this picture over the colored areas. See that? Those pictures there? When you flip it over, there's a colored part revealed. And on the back side here, which, can you see that here? She's got it covered up with the same color paper as you can look through. So you don't see the faces here, and you don't see the black and white ones there until you turn it over. So you turn it over, and what does it reveal? The faces are all different, and they're looking at the same thing they looked at before, but the only thing that's different is the color. See how color is associated with emotion or adding additional meaning, peace, happiness, alarm, excitement. Yeah. Very well done, very interactive, okay? Color adds an emotional appeal. Now, this is a mirror that I used to show what's going on. You can't see both sides of this. Someone did a real number on this, didn't they? 2 wig stands there, and cut open the brain and put a bunch of different things in there, and different expressions on the front. Okay, depends on what they're thinking, what expressions they have. So I can see that there's, some thought expressions. By now, can't use words, cannot use words at all, period, to help convey this message. So that violated it right there. There's another way of looking at it. I didn't show the words being used. Lots of different images that I can get out of that. Okay, Britain leaving the European Union is good. I see a contrast in different things. I see a lot of signs going on. I'm not sure what things mean here. This looks like, I don't know what this is back here. I guess that's the European Union flag. And here's the Union Jack for the Great Britain. They say no immigrants, looks like, on the boat. No terrorists. Money, something to do with that. And over here is robbery and people getting on a boat coming over and communism. And so we're associating these bad things with the European Union and associating not liking these things with that. I'm not sure it's saying it's representing Brexit. Okay, there's not a real sign that's showing that. But you can see, because it's got pop-ups, you can create a lot of different images from that one. This assignment's difficult, but it can be fun. If you use, now this might say it a little bit better because I'm not sure if your audience doesn't know what that means, this sign, this flag here, doesn't know what it means, they're going to miss it. Very important you pick signs that your audience will understand. Now here's the last one. Okay, this is the overall. It's divided into 3 sections. And you look here really close, and they're all happy and I got an idea and oh, that works. And I can't remember what's behind that one because it wasn't shot correctly, right? Here he's by himself and he's thinking I'm strong, right? And here he's by himself, like, I don't know, I'm confused. Go back here and look at this together. He's kind of by himself, confused. He's making some progress. He's strong. But they make a lot more progress all working together. So, you know, what's that saying? Teamwork, get the job done faster and better. Okay, I can buy that. See that? So hopefully this will help you in your work of what you're trying to do to get this assignment 2 done. Okay? So if you have any questions or anything to say about this, please post them and I'll get back with you. I will be available a lot now. I'm on land. I've got unlimited phone calling and texting, so you can get a hold of me if you got a quick question, okay? I'll be checking at least once daily online, and I'm going to be also posting some other follow-up presentations. Thank you for watching here to the end. Please report you saw this in the forum so you get your 2 points. And if you've extensively taken all of your notes over this thing, good for you, student. Submit those notes for an extra 2 points. Have a good day.